I don't use these games to, like you say, uh, like with Assassin's Creed. No, I mean there are many things about Assassin's Creed and the Assassin's Creed series which have their virtues for trying to do that in a certain way, but it's I would say this course is not even really about any specific time period, but trying at a very high level of abstraction, getting students to think about, for example, when I do have the students play Assassin's Creed 2, that's one of the three games that I've assigned in the course, and they have to complete a project for that unit. Um, and the way that I structure the course is that it's broken into three units based on historical perspectives. So one of the questions I had in coming up with the course is, how do you divide it? Do you do it by genre? Do you do it by some kind of historical thematic focus? But what I decided to do is by perspective. So this is the micro, the meso, and the macro perspective based on the sort of field of vision and the subjectivity of who or what you play as in the game, what kind of power you have over the world and your place in the world that is represented. So a game like Assassin's Creed is a first person game in that you are playing as a single individual, although it is shot from a third person perspective, so from behind the character. But in historical terms, I think of it as a micro game because you only are one historical actor, right? You don't control a group of people, you don't control an entire planet or anything like that. You are one person, although that person in Assassin's Creed is always basically a superhuman, well, it's a virtual representation of a superhuman assassin, whatever. When they complete that project on this perspective, I ask them in their, based on their playthrough of Assassin's Creed 2, what does the fact that you are this person, and in particular in Assassin's Creed 2, that's the character Ezio, who has all these, like all the characters do in Assassin's Creed, these fantastic powers of parkour and fantastic violence, and have this kind of superhuman ability. The fact that you are this one actor in this representation of Florence for the most part, and that you have all these abilities, how does that fact seem to shape or force or distort or or give advantages to the way that history itself is represented in the game? So that can be, if the students want to, they can talk about, well, this means that certain details are left out. Like, we've got the Duomo, but everything else in Florence is kind of generic. All the people are generic because, it doesn't really matter. You don't have to interact with them very much. They're just kind of background there. Or like the buildings are modified in such a way as to have very convenient footholds. And there's always like a hay cart that you can go hide in, and things like this. That the world has been kind of structured around the nature of the player, and then that means that the representation itself is somehow warped or modified to suit the fact that you are this particular person. So it's not even so much about a specific period of time or what is the time that is purported to be represented in the game, but kind of on a mechanical level, a structural level, a meta historical level, how video games force the representation of the past in certain ways.
And you've mentioned a couple of times now the philosophy of history
Mhm,
and the term historiography.
mhm.
What exactly do you mean by those, and how do they connect to this?
Yes, yes. No, that's a fantastic question. And there I have to, I don't know, I have to tread lightly because I can't claim to have the most masterful command of the discipline of philosophy of history, which is really a very specialized field within philosophy. That's not something I've been trained in. My access to it is as a practitioner, sort of a practicing historian who came up in a kind of traditional historical way, where you take certain courses and you read certain authors, and sometimes you are asked to think about, like, what is it what we're really doing here on a kind of intellectual level, and what are the implications phenomenologically and ethically, and of trying to represent the past. So when I say philosophy of history, I mean kind of at a very fundamental level, what does it mean to try to understand the past, as, like epistemologically, like as a field of understanding, as a field of knowledge, and what are the implications of how we try to represent it?